Ladies and gentlemen, this is internet personality Vangelus, and I bought one of those Generations Brainstorms from that eBay seller that sold them for 28 bucks in shipping. Unfortunately, that also means I got to have my own tale of assembly woe. You see, that little pilot face shouldn't be staring at us from Brainstorm's neck, and I had a tech spec panel that simply wouldn't lock up as a seat back in alt mode. So, after over 2 hours of open chest surgery... Ha! And then for round 2... Ha! Oh man, how long did that take? Way too long. Still gotta do something about the bobbleheadiness. But I kinda win. I only sort of broke something inside here, which is what's causing this to get a little bit lopsided. Oh well. That actually kinda works. Man. Yeah. Oh. The root issue was that the spring that pulls back on the mechanism just wasn't coiled enough. There wasn't enough pull. I ended up shortening it, with a hell of a lot of luck. Anyway, my own chapter of hardship aside, let's take a look at this IDW Comics-inspired inventor overlord. Brainstorm's vehicle mode is very G1 reminiscent, but with a lot of hard edges and blocky bits being smoothed out and curvatured. Some have straight up said, it's an R-Wing, and I can kinda see where they're coming from. There isn't a lot of paint in this mode, but the plastic colors are so spot on that I kinda don't care. This is hardcore Brainstorm, from the light turquoise to the creamy off-white. The silver detailing is very shiny too. My only big issue is that there's a block jutting out of the back in a way that looks like it was meant to hug a little tighter to the rear of the jet. But the upside of this is that it is a great handle for swooshin'. That said, there's a Tamashii stage-compatible peg hole placed perfectly for floating display action. Just be sure to remember to fold up that front landing gear, or people might look at you like you're forgetful. Inside the cockpit is the Headmaster Pilot, whose name is, apparently, Head Converts to Pilot. I mean, for simplicity's sake, we could all just call him Arcana, but I can't help wondering if the box is avoiding saying anything for the sake of IDW comic spoilers. Anyway, Head Converts to Pilot sadly suffers from Toy World syndrome in that there's a giant upside-down face on his back. Now, he's also not a $100 boutique collectible, so while it's a bit less egregious, I really wish there was a flap or a mouthplate slide or something. Head Converts to Pilot has got super limited shoulder ball joints and a maybe not limited enough neck ball joint that was bobblehead loose on mine right out of the box. I ended up wrapping the ball in some adhesive vinyl to strengthen the joint, but others have had good luck in simply tightening the figure's chest screw to tighten the joint. Or putting a thickener on the ball joint to tighten the joint. How many more times can I say joint? I don't know. Head Converts to Pilot transforms into Pilot Converts to Head by simply rolling up into a ball. Let's see what Jet Converts to Headless Robot does in response. Honestly, this transformation isn't much more complex. It's about as simple as the original G1 toy, but as much as I've scrutinized it, I don't really see what else I'd like it to have done. While it's a short affair, the conversion's also quite satisfying, and I don't feel either mode suffers for it. This is one of those times the balance of complexity and satisfaction hits a positive result while not taking very long at all to do. The moment of cranial connection pops out a chest-based tech spec, which was the most hair-trigger and unreliable part of the toy before I had my surgeon's way with it. It's still pretty hair-trigger, and the mechanism's so weird and inverted and convoluted, I kind of feel like it causes more trouble than it's worth. Engineering elucidation set aside, Brainstorm looks friggin' delicious in robot mode. Look at those proportions! They're so very right, at least for what I want. Aside from being really pleasing to my eyes, they're also nicely referential to the current IDW Comics source material. I like having his shoulder wings swept back a bit, but you can fold them to your taste. Same thing goes for the guns I have plugged into his back. I think this looks a lot like several panels from the books, but you can keep him on the nose cone, or toss him to one side if you want. Or plug him into his hands. They look properly long-nosed and laser nasty. His elongated feet are definitely a stylistic thing that'll either work for you or not, but I don't really mind them. They also give him a super solid standing base. While Brainstorm's colors and paint are largely the same as in his alt mode, I do want to take a closer look at his head now that it's in its Pilot Converts to Head configuration. The sculpt is pretty well done, but the paint on his eyes and faceplate is a little sloppy on the edges. It could definitely benefit from at least a little bit of black outlining on the user end. Mine also benefited greatly from tightening the neck ball joint so he doesn't have a bobblehead. Now, some of this tilt is actually Arcana's head tilting inside the socket, and some of it is the ball joint. It's, got a really good range, in theory. Mine's a little funny because I'm using, layer of adhesive vinyl to thicken the joint. Others have had luck just tightening the chest screw in the Headmaster. Once this neck joint works, it's not bad. Like, it gives you a lot of personality, and hopefully more of these Brainstorms will have one that's got decent tension, and hopefully ones that don't can all be fixed by tightening the chest screw. Mine couldn't for some reason. Moving on from there, though, the shoulders have got simple forward and backward motion, and then a ratcheting, soft ratcheting, outward motion. At least in theory they do. This one does. This one, after opening it up, I discovered that during assembly the ratchet gearing was completely mangled. So this actually more so just is a friction joint, but as you can see, it's actually a pretty good friction joint. So the ratcheting, I guess, is just sort of there for security's sake. I don't know. Hopefully nobody out there watching this has this problem. As for the biceps, they super swivel. Nice and tight. There's a double jointed elbow. The top joint is a friction joint. The bottom joint, in theory, is a ratchet joint. Over here, you can hear some of those detents. At least I hope you can hear it. Yeah. I don't know how those work. I think it's some kind of gearing in the side, because over here, I can't tell if anything's different, but there's absolutely no detenting over on this side, and it's just a tad looser. It still holds position fine. Like, it's not loose. None of the joints here are really loose. Just that something's going on here with the assembly. Anyway, if you find that you have asymmetrical ratcheting, then, yo, yours is kind of like mine. Down here on the hips, the skirts are pretty good at getting out of the way. Or, you know, just him getting real excited about science. His forward hip motion, just a friction joint. Pretty tight, pretty good. Goes a whole lot in both directions. Brainstorm swings in every way. And there's a hella ratchet for the outward motion. And that feels really nice. I dig it a lot. His knees are a simple friction joint. Same thing for the thigh, swivel. Then down here, his big old feet can move forward and backwards a little bit. And then, see all the stuff down there? That's because they can tilt just enough to be wonderful, so that when you plant him down, he has a solid and flat stance. And that's great. So, posability-wise, the only thing this guy's missing really is a waist joint. And I think one could have happened right here. It looks almost like there's even like a divot in place for a mushroom peg or something. But I guess the tolerances just didn't play out quite right with the cockpit right in there as well. It's a shame. Waist joint would have completed this guy really nice, but he's still totally fine for posability. Also, he's got this hole right down underneath his buttocks. And it's the same hole from the jet mode. Perfectly fits a Tamashi stage. And this also completes the guy real well, because if you have him like in a floating pose, something about it is just totally beautifully right. I don't have him very high because I just have the one Tamashi stage here. I can get him a little bit more elevation. But yeah, I really dig that. Overall, Brainstorm's posability, pretty good. This is a really strong Generations Voyager design. Both modes look great. The transformation hits a good balance of satisfaction and simplicity without sacrificing anything in either direction. He's pretty posable, and we finally got a Headmaster in a modern main line. Unfortunately, in the case of myself and several other early adopters, which is fancy talk for impatient people who ordered off eBay, the ambitious nature of the Headmaster's gimmicks, ancillary gimmickry, is a key source of our copy's primary production woes. Now, there is a decent chance that Brainstorms who end up on retail store shelves will be just fine and revised, and I really hope that's the case. The precedent has been set with Windblade, because on a design and engineering level, I think this is a fantastic figure that's well worth any Transformer fan's time and money. I just have my fingers crossed that it won't come with experience-dampening assembly baggage. Anyway, this has been Internet Personality Vangelus, and this toy has given me two new temptations. A Takara Tomy Brainstorm, in case it ends up being built better, and some kind of yellow briefcase, because god damn it, he needs it.